Hey guys, Anfield here. Welcome back to another video. One in which I have delayed a lot. Sorry. But we're here with the single biggest update to Ranger since the class reworks of 2018, 3.5 years ago. Wow. Of course, you could count Succession, but as that didn't affect Awakening, I won't. I thought for some time now how I want to approach this video, but as the weeks sort of rolled on, we got the change after change to the reboot, and I felt increasingly confused about how to approach the reboot video, since anything I could do could be then unwritten in the next patch. What I've decided for now, as things are still subject to change, is to give you an overview of the changes but not in great detail, as to focus on how I feel about PA's approach to Rangers so far. I think this is the best course of action since, as I've already mentioned, changes can be expected before they reach live, and of course, once they do reach live, both the Bible videos I've made for each spec will need to be completely redone. Of course, during my live streams, the questions I get most frequent, understandably, are how I feel about the Ranger reboot. Frankly, it seems most people have slightly different views on each aspect, what PA got right, what they got wrong. Another challenge to evaluate class reboots is comparisons to other classes, since your current base is to compare against existing classes, but of course, many classes are getting their own reboots, and since the trend is towards buffs, this affects our post-reboot standings also. But to those who are concerned over the potential issues surrounding this reboot, I can at least bring one overwhelmingly positive bit of feedback. This pertains to our PvE, a form of gameplay critical and core for many players' progression, and one in which Ranger has been relatively poor overall. Of course, many players choose to simply tag the most meta PvE classes, including those who already play competent PvE mains, but just not quite the most meta. Rangers and of course archers, although we don't care about them here, have issue with back attacks, and this is finally, praise Sylvia, being addressed. A back attack modifier is 150% in PvE. This is a huge amount of boosted damage, something we had no reliable access to, and now we do. Which, considering the majority of mobs cannot be knocked down, this is a massive improvement. But it doesn't simply end there. For Awakening, the change to Wind Step to improve its forward speeds will improve our pack-to-pack movement, which can be a big part of any grind. Of course, there are changes to Elven Rage and the new Awakening abilities and some other things. But as these pertain to trying to test damage on the Global Lab, I can't speak as to their effectiveness. It's kind of difficult when you're dealing with gear that you use on the Global Lab versus your actual real gear to get an actual feel for these skills and damage in general. On Korea, you're allowed to test things by porting your character over, and hopefully we can do that soon on NA and EU to make it easier. But they may turn out to slap very hard, or they could be duds, but the dash and the back attack I don't actually need to test to know how effective they are. For Succession, if it's true that split damage applies the same way in PvE as it does in PvP for skills that do have it, then the improvement of our current split damage to that of the Wizard and Witch one will be a huge gain on some abilities. Also changed is the re-addition of down attack to skills like Prime, Ultimate Blast, and Gust, as well as a down attack addition to skills like Tearing Arrow. Although previously mentioned, mobs can't always be down attacked, but some can, and that will be a nice addition. Another nice change for Succession in PvE is the improvement of the Spirit feature that was not so long ago added to Call of the Earth, which is now a native passive to the skills it affected rather than tied to the activation of Call of the Earth. It was also improved in hit damage from 123% times 2 to 151% times 2. That's quite a big jump. There's also damage improvements to Prime Regeneration and Nature's Tremble, as well as Will of the Wind having its range reduction improved to 15. So I have a few comparisons here for the live servers versus the Global Lab. With Breezy Blade here, you can just see the difference in the speed of the Global Lab there. No reduction in speed or distance when you are on cooldown. And then more importantly here is the dash, which you've heard me mention a few different times. This will be very important in PvP just for moving around with every class being so fast. You can see the Global Lab on the left there, much quicker than the live servers. So you can already go really fast backwards, but forwards you couldn't, which is not that great when trying to catch opponents you've CC'd. And here you can see some Call from Sky. So basically, the pre-awakening Call from Sky when you're in an awakening kit is just faster. I thought I'd throw it in there just because I thought it was kind of interesting that they did that. And so here is the skill enhancement. So you can see Will Descending Current is much further. So that I just threw that in there so you can take a look at that again if you want to. But we're going to look at the new skills now. So you can see this is the Super Armor skill. It's decent, it seems, but it's hard to really say. And again, I don't really know what the damage is. I hope the damage is quite high, even if they have to remove the protection. So that's the little rollback ability, as well as the far-reaching range ability. I'm not sure what the final names of these abilities will be, so like it's like weird names like Spirit Galaxy and stuff. I don't know. But basically, once you flow out of that, you can throw that little ranged ability. How strong that ability will really be, I don't know. Again, this is all we're going to require damage tests, but you can see that the range is actually very high, so that's kind of nice. As for the rollback ability here, which I've been showing you, it's I want to love it because it's cool, because we've needed like an evasive movement ability. It's so slow and it doesn't move you very far. I just really think it would be much better if it was to move you much further and faster. It just seems like, given the ability or the mobility given to classes these days, it would be much better if it moved you further, but at least you can dash out the end of it. But there is that super armor risk with slows and stuff like that, so keep that in mind. Oh, another change that I actually want to show you is that you can now, with the flow, you can move around with charging wind with super armor. Now, you could do this before, I think with Wings of Freedom, I can't remember, but you couldn't have super armor, but now you can. So it's kind of a little interesting change for Succession. I thought I'd throw it in there for the Suck players, so you have that to look at. Okay, so the final part of this video, we're just going to talk about what my real first impressions have been so far of the couple weeks of changes that we've gotten to the Ranger reboot, and where we're sitting at. Keep in mind, obviously, like I said, this is all subject to change. Don't take anything of like this is definitely what we're getting, or this is the final form of what we're getting. Things will change once they've gotten the reboots out, which by the time of this video will be this week, and then we'll probably the following week we'll start going back to feedback changes. You know, so there may be more changes to come. I'm sure there will be. So just keep that in mind. As for the approach Perlibus has taken so far, we'll start with Succession Ranger, since I have some shoddy gameplay of Succession here in the background. I think that large-scale PvP being buffed significantly is nice in some ways, because that's what Succession Ranger was being used for, and they're doubling down, it seems, on that as its playstyle is large scale. But there are players that played Succession Ranger outside of that. PvE is being improved, but again, if you have to fight, it's unfortunate because they didn't improve the 1v1 or small scale stuff. They did improve the large scale PvP significantly. We're getting the Wizard and Witch split damage. Now, just to show how scuffed our split damage is, the way the Ranger split damage works is, let's say you have 4 targets in front of you. They're completely equally geared, and you hit all 4 of them with a skill. That skill will do 25% of its damage to each individual player. The way Wizard and Witch split damage works, which is what we're getting, if you hit another player, your damage is reduced by 5%. Hit another player, 5% more, up to, I think, the lowest you can do is 70% of your skill damage. I think you can already see how much significantly better that is, and how scuffed our split damage was. This being changed is important though, because it means our damage that we throw into crowds with, you know, things like Tearing Arrow, Penetrating Wind, stuff like that, that's going to do way more to multiple targets than it does right now, which is really scuffed right now, because obviously if you hit multiple people with those skills, the damage is just softened so much. That won't be the case anymore. So this is really big stuff for large-scale PvP Succession. The thing is, though, I was really hoping that they would address at the outside of large-scale PvP, give it something in 1v1. As many of you know, they did change ES. It's actually bugged at the moment, but let's just pretend it's not bugged and what they originally nerfed to, which is if you use ES after the initial 2 times, you don't get that second alternating iframe anymore. That was removed. Now, I agree with this because it was a gimmicky thing anyway, and I don't think it should have been there. That being said, it should have been replaced with a more official iframe, I suppose. So Call from Sky could have easily been given its iframe back, or at least iframe on cooldown, and the skill been moved so that in Prime it moves you further. I think this is a reasonable change. You don't attack or do damage from Call from Sky, and you're so vulnerable at the moment for Call from Sky, and it's super armor, so you get slowed, you can get grabbed. It's ridiculous how, at least now with Shotgun having forward guard on cooldown, you can well, you could, but you could Call from Sky into a Shotgun and get a forward guard quickly. That's at least something, but I still think Call from Sky, if I can speak, should have been given an iframe to replace the EES one that was taken away. But that's how I feel about that. So that's kind of Succession in a nutshell. Things like Call of the Earth being changed to be an ally buff is also really nice, because I think that that's something the game needs, is more things to connect groups of players together, like little buffs and stuff like that. Some classes have had them, but not enough, I think. Obviously, Shy should have the majority of them, but I like that. I think it's good. I mean, the Valk one is better, yes, but it's still a nice change, I think. So, yeah, I really rate that. Going to Awakening for a bit. Awakening is obviously my preferred spec. And what I really wanted from Awakening was it to be more competitive in small scale stuff. So outside of 1v1 in the battle arena, obviously a Succession Ranger in battle arena in the perfect conditions with a very good player, it's a good 1v1er. But outside of that, in less unique circumstances and also in smaller scale stuff like 3v3s, you know, stuff like that, it just doesn't handle so well. It's a massive uphill struggle where it's competition, you know, so you, for example, Ninja is an excellent 1v1er, but it's also very good at skirmishing, you know, and I think a lot of this comes down to just how fast some of these classes are. Well, two factors: one, their speed, and also their ability to blow people up. Although I don't agree with it, BDO has become more and more about a game where you just blow people up, and that's what's important. Classes having massive nuke abilities. Ranger doesn't have that. Now, granted, the new ability, one of the new abilities we have, the Super Armor one, might be that, potentially, but I don't know, and I'm not really sure, you know. So the thing is, like, when you catch somebody in a group fight, you want to blow them up fast because otherwise you get CC'd and attacked by their allies, right? Other classes do this. Obviously, Ninja, for example, you have Serpent. But you also have the mobility. So these classes that are good at 1v1 also have incredible mobility. Think of Lon as well. And I mean, even like classes like Warrior, Valkyrie got a ton of new movement. Not that Valkyrie is a skirmisher class, but like, everything is so fast and we're not, and that's unfortunate. Windstep was improved to move forwards. I've already mentioned this, and it's nice, but again, it's well, obviously it's very unprotected, even with a lower cooldown on the iframe. So it's kind of easy to catch if you're not a brainlet. So yeah, it's something that I really think should have been improved with the rollback ability. That was the perfect chance to give us like something. If you think of like Guardian using Infernal Nemesis, that's insane, right? This class can just get out of jail, no problem. Just Infernal Nemesis, instant iframe and instant distance achieved. Our little rollback is very short, goes into super armor, which means you can be grabbed and slowed and sat on top. I mean, if you think about how fast classes are, I would love that this ability would move us a bit further and faster. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I hope that the new ability does do good damage. It's hard to test. It doesn't seem like it does at the moment through limited testing, comparing it to like Nature's Tremble, which should have been a nuke a long time ago. So that's kind of how I feel. Again, it's a little bit of a ramble because that's what it is. It's a passion speech about how I feel about it. There's some really good stuff in the Ranger reboot so far, but I feel like things could still be better when you're looking at what other classes are getting and stuff like that. And then you also throw in the fact that they never improved our passive. In fact, technically they nerfed it. That's astounding to me. New classes getting free accuracy and evasion and everything in their passives. It just seems insane to me. So yeah, that's really where I'm at. I'm very satisfied with the PvE. The only thing they could really improve is AoE size more. There's some slight changes to improvement in AoE size for Awakening, but I think that they could maybe do a little bit more with some of the abilities. But otherwise, yeah, really pleased with PvE. Just again, PvP, I think could use some more changes. So yeah, but let me know what you guys think. Are you satisfied with the reboot so far? What are you looking forward to? Is there anything you're nervous about, and what do you think needs to be changed, if anything? And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll make sure I update my Bible videos once the labs, well, once the reboots are on the live servers and I've had a little bit while to mess around with them. I'll make sure I update those videos for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.